Hello and welcome to another AIC Productions video. Today we're back at it with some notebook reviews. I'm excited to be coming back to these. That means that some of the monetization issues that have happened during Corona are starting to lift a little bit. But mostly it means that I'm finally actually getting a chance to relax a little bit with some of the stuff I'm doing. Work isn't quite as crazy and I can actually focus on doing some of these reviews. About a month and a half ago, Lenovo sent me this Yoga C940. When they offered this to me for review, I was pretty excited because I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not a big fan of 2-in-1s. My experience with 2-in-1s is limited to systems like this. This is just a Dell 2-in-1. I'm not a big fan of Dell, so that doesn't help. But it's pretty typical and indicative of the systems I usually see in this class. First and foremost, it's only an 11-inch screen, but you see the 11-inch screen is surrounded by a huge bezel. It also is relatively heavy for its size. It gets okay battery life, and its biggest issue is the cost. This system costs nearly twice as much as a comparative system spec-wise that is not a 2-in-1, a traditional laptop. And so you're spending a lot of extra money for a feature, and I don't think it's worth it in this instance. Typically you don't get a pen of any kind in this case, and you just get a screen that folds back that's touchscreen, that happens to be touchscreen. This one is a pretty good touchscreen and screen in general. It's a fairly high quality IPS screen. It is 1366 by 768, but it is IPS. It is a nice touchscreen, and it is a fairly nice and bright screen. Hopefully you can see that through the camera. For this class of system, but I don't think that justifies paying nearly twice as much for it, or more. Sometimes these go for a lot more than twice what their traditional laptop counterparts cost. So that brings us to the Yoga. I was really hoping that this system would kind of justify the extra cost through its feature set and its options. And it definitely has some excellent features. One being the built-in pen right here on where the hinge opens up. You get the pen. It is an active pen and it charges right off the battery. There's two little contact points right there. And it is very responsive. And I'm just bringing up random stuff. Very easy to use, very intuitive. I find it to be much better. Typically on the Dell I use this. It's just a regular clicky pen with a little squishy end on it that you get at a lot of trade shows, things like that. Works okay, but it's not great. So if you're an artist or you're doing precision work on this, this is an excellent option. Another thing that this does very well is sound quality. The speakers on this, probably some of the best speakers I've had on any laptop, period. 2-in-1, traditional, even 17-inch laptops. Oh my goodness, they have done an excellent job with the sound quality of the speakers on this system. Really good. I wish I could play you some audio, but every time I do that, my channel gets flagged for copyright, even when I use stuff that's supposed to be copyright free, so I apologize. But believe me, really good speakers. The screen on this, like the Dell, definitely has a really high quality screen. This one is a 4K screen. Gorgeous screen on this system, especially for the size of laptop. It is a 14-inch screen. It's just really good. Definitely a highlight of the system. However, benefits aside, there's definitely some downfalls with having a 2-in-1 laptop like this. First of all, this is heavy. This is a heavy system. I was actually quite surprised at just how heavy this was. I was expecting them to have a little bit lighter system, but again, it's a 14-inch laptop. It has a huge glass panel on it for the touchscreen input. It's got a really big battery in here for the extended battery life, because having a 4K screen consumes more electricity, and so you need a bigger battery life to have a longer, you need a bigger battery to have a longer battery life on here, or at least a comparable battery life to another system that doesn't have a 4K screen. You also need to charge the pen, and the pen's in there as well. That's all added weight to the system. Also, when using the system, it is a 10th gen Core i7, so you get excellent performance out of the system, but it gets hot, and it gets hot in the wrong spot. So typically, I'm right-handed, so I'll be using the laptop like this. My left hand is right here, and this spot is where all the cooling happens. And it's definitely the hottest spot on the laptop, to the point where it actually got uncomfortable to hold while I was just sitting and watching a YouTube video. Not great. That really is not an acceptable feature. To get hot right where your hand would be. Either they needed to have it so you held it this way, which there isn't enough bezel on this side to do that, and just the shape of the laptop does not lend itself to being held on this side, or they needed to adjust the cooling so that your hand wasn't where it was venting the hot exhaust. Another problem with this is just the overall feel of it. I just don't feel like this is something I'd use personally. Now again, I'm not a fan of 2-in-1s, and so maybe I'm just not the audience for this system, but this is just too big and too heavy to use in this format very often. I just don't see this being a practical system as a 2-in-1. But once you take this laptop and put it back to being a traditional laptop, this system makes a ton of sense. Now, instead of facing down or away from you, the speakers are firing straight at you. You can use the screen and the keyboard. The keyboard, in traditional Lenovo fashion, is an excellent keyboard. Not quite as good as the ThinkPad line, but definitely a step above what you would find on a Dell or even some of the consumer-grade HPs. Definitely better than those. The touchpad, like I said, is really good. Obviously, you still get to use that great screen. You still have access to the pencil back here that you can use for if you're doing like art or anything like that. You can still access the pen right there, and you still have all those great features without having to stick your hand in a hot oven. So another thing to mention with the low-end systems, like I said, their price, I definitely don't feel like it justifies the value add of having it be a 2-in-1, because I don't feel like there's any value there. Whereas when you go up in the higher price points, this Yoga, compared to a similarly spec'd ThinkPad, was really close in price. In fact, I think the ThinkPad was a couple bucks more. And so you're not actually having to pay a price penalty for the 2-in-1 design. And so I don't feel like you have to justify that as long as the specifications and features meet your requirements. And so if you're using this, like I said, I've said it multiple times, if you're using this for art or something else where you require a pen input on a screen, that is definitely something where I could see this being utilized very efficiently. However, if you need a mobile device where you need to input data and you need to hold it in one hand and input with the other hand, buy an iPad. Anyways, if you have any questions about this system or any of the other laptops I reviewed, definitely let me know in the comments section down below. I'll do my best to answer those. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.